The next one is, which we had covered before, and that is the issue of gold and silk. In our religion, gold and pure silk is permitted for women. It is something which is very attractive to the women, and it's one of the ways that they beautify themselves for their husbands, by wearing silk and gold. And so it's permitted for them. It's prohibited for men. And we went through the reasons the last time of some of the reasons why it is prohibited. Ali radiallahu anh said, the Prophet took some silk in his right hand and gold in his left and said, these two are haram for the males among my followers. So these are two things that we should try to avoid as much as possible. And this prohibition also include gold pen, gold watch, not only gold ring and gold cigarette case and all this other stuff. The Prophet ﷺ made exceptions. If with the silk, he allowed people like Abdurrahman ibn Auf and Zubayr ibn al-Awwam. They both had scabies. And so the Prophet ﷺ made an exception for them and said they are allowed to wear silk because they were not wearing it for beautification. They were actually wearing it for as a medicine or a treatment for the scabies that they had. And so this is something that, we as men, we should avoid gold. My father-in-law was a goldsmith. I don't have time for it, but when I got married, he said, I could teach you how to make, do goldsmith work. And immediately I thought to my mind, I can't make gold for women because I'm gold band and gold ring and so on. So I had to find a way, to tell him that, I really don't want to learn that trade because I feel very uncomfortable. And he could understand why. But I kept away from it. So it's important that we understand and follow sometimes the full wisdom of why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibits things we may not see, but we put trust in Allah that He knows better than us. And then the dressing of women and men, we come back again to clothes. There are three things which is important: the covering of the body, the tightness of the garment, where you see the shape of the person, and the thickness of the garment, where you can see the actual person. There's many hadith of the Prophet when he talked. There are some people who are clothed but still naked. And so whenever you're going to get clothing for women, it's covering everything except the face and the hands. From the wrist, the face and the hands. For men, it's covering the navel to the knee. So this is considered our private parts. And so when we attempt to dress, we must do the best we can to cover our bodies. Secondly, the garment we buy should not be so tight that it creates not only restriction in the way we walk, but also where others can see the shape of our bodies, especially with the women. And then the thickness of the garment, it must not be see-through. It must have some kind of thickness where it actually you don't see the person's beyond the garment itself. One of the beautiful things about Islam is that in the time since the time of the Prophet ﷺ, probably until recently, Muslims used to take great pride and joy in relation to how their clothing were made and constructed. Where you could go in every village in Africa you go, Muslim place, you would see each of them have a different way they would stitch their clothing. Everybody took pride in being creative and artistic and unique. So if you get the clothing from Turkey, it was different from Libya. If you get a clothing from Libya, it was different from Pakistan. You get one from Pakistan. Every one of the Muslims developed a unique, artistic, creative way in which they would design their clothing. Unfortunately, now everything is made in China. Even our salam mat, we have lost that production and manufacturing value to be able to be as creative as we were. But in the old days, yes, every one of those garments were made very unique and very specific. So we must be careful when we dress that these three things we take into consideration. The other very important part of this topic is men and women should not imitate each other. The Prophet ﷺ said a woman should not wear men's clothing and a man should not wear women's clothing. We should be clearly identified from each other. And so the Prophet ﷺ, according to Ali, also said that he forbid him gold rings, silken garments, and clothing with bold designs. It discouraged men from wearing clothing that had bold designs and colors which are usually associated with women, like bright red or bright yellow. You know, this was discouraged from men to wear such garments because they were mostly used by women, so that they don't become and be looked at as too effeminate and too, girly kind of a way. And so we are not encouraged to try to imitate men and women. Those are two different, distinct creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we confuse the roles, like now today we see people even changing genders and all of that. That's the next discussion. I think we're probably going to be coming to those topics down the line too. So it is important that we, when you dress like a man. Don't try to look like a woman. And when you're a woman, try to dress like a woman. And this is a very important part of our religion as well. Now, in terms of imitating each other, it's not only the dress, but speech. If you speak, speak like a man speak. There's a woman normally have a different kind of a way she speaks. It's more like soft-spoken and more, I don't even know how we describe it. The men are more guttural and more, I don't know music too much, but they have, this deep voice, where women have more a soft kind of a voice. So we should try to speak like that. And when we walk as well, men should not try to walk like women and women try to walk like men. And we should try to be distinct from each other. All right, so I think you get the point. The next one is this issue of pride. I mentioned before that, one of the things that is really a big deal over in our country and in materialistic countries is this issue of pride. Because the whole society is set up where people are constantly trying to pursue a path towards where they feel that they're better than other people. There's an ayah in the Quran in which Allah talks about those people who like to be proud and boastful. Wallahu la yuhibbu kulla mukhtalin fakhur. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love, He does not like the proud, arrogant boaster. You see, pride comes when you have the intention to try to look and be superior to other people. So Allah does not love such people. They set out to think that they are better than everyone else, and they dress that way and they behave that way as if I am better than you. This was what threw Shaitan out of the of the garden. When Shaitan said, Ana khayrum min, I am better than Adam. That arrogance is what threw him out. And that's why those people who have an ounce of pride, as the Prophet tells us, will not enter the paradise. Because this was what threw Shaitan out of the paradise. So the Prophet ﷺ said on the day of resurrection, Allah will not look at the person who trails his robe behind him out of pride. Not because you trail your robe, but if you do it out of pride, in order to show that I am better than everyone else. And so we must be very careful when we are dressing. If Allah bless you with much, your clothing will be of a more expensive kind. Your beautification may be more expensive. That is fine, as long as you don't begin to feel that I am special, I am better, rather than feeling grateful that Allah has blessed you with much. And that's a very important distinction.